Thank you for staying with Citizen Extra with me, Lillian Muli. Many lessons can be drawn from the ugly scenes we experienced in the concluded party primaries. There's a lot of room for improvement and lessons the country needs to learn to make these primaries more transparent so that the playing ground is leveled for all participants, particularly as we approach the August polls. We're going to be looking at lessons learned. With me in studio this morning is Dr. Sam Kamau. He's a political analyst. Also with us is Jeremiah Muea, who is a Jubilee gubernatorial aspirant, Machakos County. And also with us this morning is Agnes Ndete, who is the former member of Parliament in Kibwezi. We are going to be looking at lessons learned. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and thank you very much for joining us on Citizen Extra. I'll start with you, Dr. Sam. Let's begin with the numerous reports of malpractices, fraud, and violence in the party nominations. This indeed was a dismal picture. What can we learn from that?
Thank you, Lillian. I think looking back after the long nomination process and the chaos that we saw and the challenges that political parties faced, I think one of the big issues, the major lesson is that political parties in Kenya are not adequately equipped to handle the nomination processes. And I think that is why in the law we created a provision that would allow IEBC to step in. But even without IEBC, I think some of the issues were quite basic that adequately prepared political parties would be able to do this. In terms of whether we have learned any lesson, I think this is something that we witness every time we have political party nominations. In 2013 we saw the same, in 2007. But I think looking at it now, basic issues like which register to use for voting, and I think it has been the subject of controversy and the reason many people are disputing the whole process. I think these are issues we could try and rectify as we move forward. The other thing, of course, is that political parties can try, instead of doing last-minute arrangements and preparations and recruiting election officials towards the end, this is something they could do in terms of establishing proper structures. I think it's also a requirement in law that the political parties would have offices across the entire country so that they could be able to handle the logistical challenges that we saw. Delivery of ballot material, voting material late to the stations, I think these are things that political parties could have been able to set in place. So I think what we need is that after the elections, the political parties need to sit together, look at the issues that bedeviled the whole process, and see where best they could be able to improve. Unfortunately, I still think in the next elections in 2022, we might still be discussing the same issues, because what tends to happen is that political parties usually, especially the big ones, don't have a life beyond the 5 years. So we'll see other new parties coming up. Although I would say for ODM and maybe Wiper that have been there for longer, they should have done better. But since the same mistakes came up again, I think we have to ensure or enforce the political party laws that were passed to ensure that there could be discipline. But I think right now what we're also witnessing is that the dispute resolution mechanisms within the political party structures, we have seen instances where people raise complaints or raise issues, and there are decisions being made, and again they are being disputed. And I think even if legally we have explored or created mechanisms that should help to address that, there are still those fears and issues that are still coming up because people still feel that the processes are not being handled well or decisions are not being respected. So there's a lot to learn, Lillian.
Jeremiah, before we get into your gubernatorial ambitions in Machakos County, we also saw the determination by the officials in various parties to ensure that aspirants abide by the rules. We saw ODM, Jubilee and other parties cancel results and order repeats where there were glaring malpractices.
Well, thank you, Lillian, for having me here. My other name also that is known in Machakos is Lemi, too. That's my name. I would like to say that Dr. Ria is spot on that issue. Actually, IEBC, in terms of having IEBC conduct our primaries, is the way to go. Because you realize that political parties are not election entities. These are political entities. So whatever you've seen happen, when the ODM primaries were done, we thought, issues of chaos during the primaries would be just isolated. But up to this time now, we've seen the other bigger parties do their primaries, and we know that there are challenges. So IEBC is the way to go in the future if we are not going to see these things being repeated again. So I have seen in Jubilee that we have done well. They had their challenges. A lot of petitions were done by people who lost. But at least IEBC, it's on record. I mean, Jubilee is on record having said that we wanted our elections to be, primaries to be conducted by the IEBC, but we were challenged a bit. So in the future, the major parties and all parties if possible, IEBC needs to be funded so that they can conduct our primaries, so that then we don't see a repeat of what we've been seeing in the last 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Lenny there, Mweshimwendete is saying that there's need to enhance the capacity of the IEBC to take full charge of party primaries in the future. For you, Madame Dete, who is a veteran politician, what is your assessment of the just concluded primaries, going back to past experiences as a politician? Have we come of age as a nation? Is there room for improvement?
Thank you, Lillian, for having me this morning. When I looked at the last nominations, I saw history repeating itself. I was a candidate of the first Musujo system in 1988. And that time, that was the first time for a woman to run for a parliamentary seat in the whole of Machakos and Makueni. That time it was just Machakos district. And when I looked at what was happening 3 weeks ago, I felt like we are right back in 1988, although it was slightly different that time, because that time Kenya was only one political party, KANU, and the primaries were such that whoever wanted to vie for either a councillor or member of parliament seat, you just feed yourself and go around campaign until the Mushujo day, and then people come and queue behind their candidate. So, you only got one polling station, and then the other polling stations you put your agent, and the agent stands behind, the agent stands holding your picture. And then people want to vote for you, you queue behind that agent. However, at that time, because democracy was very young in Kenya, it was hardly ever there. There was a lot of violence because people had their choices, and they would like to force you. If it is a husband, he wants to force his wife to vote the person he wants and not the person the wife wants. So that time women experienced a lot of violence, and I was a victim of that at that time, along with the women who were supporting me actually, and even women in other areas. And I opposed it very seriously in Parliament. I said it denies people their rights to choose. It is a violation of our rights, and and I gave examples of women who actually fought physically by their husbands and their relatives until they had to quit their homes and go to their parents. So, but when I looked at this past experience and even the last years where we have been having nominations, I feel like we are maturing very slowly in terms of party nominations. As a country, we are not doing very well. But I'm wondering why we should reinvent the wheel. We have got mature democracies in the world. We have countries like America, like Britain, like France, where you never hear fracases during parties picking their candidates. So we can learn from those countries, how they do it, how they organize, how women get this equal space and all the candidates. Because Kenya, with the formation of multi-party system, when we amended Section 2A in 1992, I remember the President, His Excellency Daniel Arap Moi, he called us for a meeting as members of Parliament, and he told us, okay, it's good we have amended Section 2A, but you are going to see so many small political parties, and itakuwa ni ya ukabila, they will be based on tribal lines. And I have watched that come to fruition, and it has made me sad. Because when I remember 1988, we were all in one party, and I knew I was suffering what somebody in Garissa is suffering, what somebody in Central Province is suffering. We were all in one system, and as a nation we were more cohesive that time. And you did not hear anybody saying, oh, huyu ni kabila hii during campaigns. So as far as I'm concerned, having fewer political parties who are more organized, who can identify able candidates at the right time without so much fracas, that is the best way to go So there is a lot of room to learn, and to learn from other countries and see how best we can go about this. It has also left some people very broke because these primaries are very expensive. It has left some people very bitter. But one thing I want to tell Kenyans is that an election is not the end of your life. Go there when you are sober, when you are relaxed. Know that even when you lose, you can still go to something else. You can try another time. Let's try to keep the peace of the country, because that is what is most important.
Dr. Kamal, you know, Mheshimiwa Ndete is saying there's not been a lot of change, actually hardly any at all. She says that these past primaries are reminiscent of situations that she herself has experienced as a politician. Question is, are some of these political parties designing the primaries, or did some of these political parties design the primaries to fail so that they could push their own candidates?
Well, there's a sense in which, of course, there were political party favorites in the different parties. I wouldn't say, of course, that they were designed to fail, because we've all seen some favorites struggle to get through. But I think the real issue is that political parties were not adequately prepared. They do not have the nationwide structures that would help them run credible nominations. And I think right now IBC has come out looking a little bit better. I know political parties have spent the last 5 years hammering IBC on how they have conducted elections in the past. But given the challenges that the political parties themselves have experienced in the last couple of weeks, I think they can appreciate it's a logistical nightmare to run such a big exercise. But looking at it, there's a sense in which, of course, the people who are selected or appointed to run the primaries, there could be, and we have had cases of returning officers who are either appointed or seemed to lean on certain sides, those who switched off their phones, or even those who are escorted by specific candidates so that they could declare results. And I think even that very process of recruiting people to manage the nomination process, because I know people are blaming maybe the top leaders of the political parties, but some things you can see, maybe it was an arrangement between a specific candidate who had a way of influencing the returning officer in charge of a particular constituency or a particular county. And I think these are the issues we are saying we can look at. I know if it was IBC conducting the primaries, it would be a different ballgame, because there are some established structures that we could use. But if a returning officer was appointed by a political party specifically just to handle nominations for a particular region, maybe for 1, 2, or 3 days, then there could be that there are no proper mechanisms within the political party structures to hold these people accountable. And that is why some of them went rogue, some of them disappeared, they switched off their phones. So there's a sense in which there was disorganization in the beginning, even if the political parties and some of the leaders of the national election boards of the different political parties, they exuded confidence that the process would be good, but I think they underestimated the challenges that they would encounter, and of course some of the human factors in terms of some incumbents or maybe some moneyed politicians who are keen on influencing the whole process.
And we want to shift focus away from the primaries to Ukambani politics. Jeremiah Muya, you're a Jubilee gubernatorial aspirant in Machakos County. You say that people popularly refer to you as Lenny? Yeah, okay. So you did not go through any nominations. How do you plan to take on what is being seen as a very competitive duel between incumbent Governor Alfred Mutua of Maendeleo Chap Chap and Wavinya Ndeti of Wiper?
Well, thank you, Lillian. That is a perception. Of course, we all know what happened in Kiambu and other places. We also saw a surprise also in America when Trump won. So there's a perception that so-and-so is so popular, but things may turn out differently after 8th of August this year. In Machakos, for instance, we have about 620,000 registered voters, right? And Machakos is more or less a cosmopolitan county. So we have Jubilee supporters, we have Wiper supporters, we have supporters for the other small parties also. But personally, I lead a group of young people whom we came together for the last couple of years, and we formed our own movement called the Machakos Youth Power Movement. Currently, we have about 85,000 members online. Of course, it's a digital team. And the other same guys who told me, Lemmy, because you are a youth movement, why can't you offer yourself, because you're qualified, to run for the governorship of Machakos this year? And why can't you then work with a youthful presidency, like the dynamic duo that we have of the current president and his deputy? So the choice of where I am at the moment is due to, I mean, it's a sort of broad consultation amongst the youth that we have in Machakos. And of course, you know, the youthful voters are majority. I'm not saying that all the youth will vote for Lemmy, but I believe majority of them will vote for me because I believe I'm one of them. And if majority vote for me, definitely I'm going to win, because again, the youth vote is more than 65% in Machakos.
For the people who, you know, even from Machakos County who are watching our viewers who may not be very familiar with you, you're a newcomer. You seem to be a newcomer. A lot of people probably haven't really heard about you, and now you're talking about the Machakos Youth Power movement. What do you think your chances are between these two very aggressive and experienced politicians? Well,
Lillian, I'm known in Machakos. I've been an assistant lecturer in a public university. I have been working in the county government of Machakos. I was the first chief officer for water in Machakos County. I was later the chief officer in the office of the governor for special programs. So I've traversed the whole county, definitely. I know how the government works. And I know what can be done better.
So you're new in politics, for lack of a better word?
I don't know what you mean that I'm new in politics, because it was the first time. I'm not equating myself to someone like Trump, of course. But it was his first time to run in America for a political seat, and he won, you see. So I'm not new in politics.
And this is the second time you're referring to Trump, so would you say that you stand chances just like Trump did? Are you the Donald Trump of Machakos County? Because you seem to be referring to Donald Trump a lot.
Well, I'm saying that this race is open. I believe and I know that I have a good chance, just like anybody else who is there, to win this seat come 8th this year, August. So we as the youth, if the majority of them vote for me, and of course senior citizens whom I respect so much, I'm going to win. It's that easy. Machakos is open. This seat for the governorship of Machakos is open. I've been in the government. I know it works. I know what has been done wrongly. I know I can correct that. I've been talking to the people. I've been traversing the 8 constituencies that we have in Machakos, and the voters have impressed me, especially the youth in Machakos. So I believe I'm going to win.
Mheshimiwa Ndete, when we look at leadership in Ukambani, what are the Ukambani people looking for in a leader? We know there's been the narrative of water, and a lot of this has been, of course, has been used as a campaign strategy for a lot of the leaders who traverse the various constituencies. The drought in the area, you know, having been a concern for many years. But what are the people, what are the electorate, not just in Machakos County, but in Ukambani, looking for in a leader?
In Ukambani right now, I must say that from the experience I had since 2013, when I ran as a women representative candidate for Makueni, it was very difficult to run on a Jubilee ticket, and I did. And I got some reasonably good votes. But and that
Why do you say it was difficult?
It was difficult because it was a wiper area. It was a code zone. You know, it was literally coded. It was a code area. And so I found it very, very difficult. I would go to some places and they would hit me with the cow dung because they were opposed to me, you know, talking about the Jubilee, the Jubilee coalition that time. And the fact that I'm on it, and a lot of places I would be told, Agnes, we know you. We would have given you a lot of votes, but because you have come with the wrong party, with the wrong group, we are not to give you. We are not going to give you. We are denying you your own, and whoever else is behind you.
So are you saying that Lenny's chances could probably be jeopardized by the fact that he's running on a Jubilee wave?
Not now. Now things have changed. Ukambani actually has turned Jubilee. And what has surprised me now, because I'm not running, but I'm mentoring younger people who are running with the Jubilee tickets, the women representative, the MCS, would go somewhere, and then we are talking about Jubilee and talking to them how they could come up and be on board and work with the president, and then they'll start, you know, showing us their Jubilee tickets, cards. They say, in fact, you people, you are coming late. We are already in Jubilee, only that we don't want to talk about it. So that has surprised me. Wakambas have decided they want to go with Jubilee, but their main agenda, they want the government to address the issue of water. Campus are saying if the government could turn around organize for huge resources, do a Marshall Plan to do water, water infrastructure in Ukambani. Ukambani would be a good zone. It would be like a green zone. And the Kambas are hardworking. They can feed even this country, even when it is dry, so long as they have water. So that is their main cry. They want people who can address the issue of water. And that's why they are willing now to work with the current government, because they have seen the development record of the Jubilee government, of His Excellency the President, his deputy. They're hard-working young people, and they're ready to work with everybody in this country. And so also I'm appealing to those Kambas who are still on the fence, wondering how can I abandon our son, so on and so forth. We need water. Before anything else, we need Ukambani to have water. And that is what majority of the Kambas
By saying, how can you abandon our son, you mean Kalonzo Musyoka?
Kalonzo Musyoka, yes. But a few of them are torn in between the two. But a lot of Kambas have defined exactly what they need. And they're saying before the president finishes his 10 years, they want to work with him for these 5 years, so that at least he can see if he can give them water resources in Ukambani. And that is the main cry.
Dr. Kamau, Agnes Ndete talking about the perception that, for instance, the Jubilee-friendly individuals or personalities are seen as having abandoned the son, who is Kalonzo Musyoka. Does the Kalonzo factor still hold ground in Ukambani politics now that he is, of course, he was unveiled as NASA's running mate, as Raila Odinga's running mate? How does this change the tide?
Lillian, I think is stretching it too far to suggest that Ukambani is turning towards Jubilee. What I would say is that I know Machakos looking at the 2013 elections. I know a number of MPs were elected not necessarily on a Wiper ticket. But I think even now we still consider the whole of Ukambani region predominantly a NASA zone, and I still expect NASA to have a strong showing in that particular region. And I think for the people of Ukambani is to look, now that people tend to focus on their political leaders and see themselves represented in that, is to consider between Jubilee and NASA. How do they find more representation? And I think a good number of them may tend to identify more with NASA as opposed to Jubilee. I am not disputing the fact that perhaps in Machakos, which is more cosmopolitan, especially the Mavoko area, there could be quite a number of Jubilee supporters, and also the fact that quite a number of political leaders from both Kitui and Machakos may have defected or associated with Jubilee. But I still expect the Ukambani region or the lower eastern region basically to still vote with NASA. I know they are susceptible to propaganda in the fact that in 2013 they tried the same formation and supported the code, and they didn't make it. And I think the same arrangement has still come to them now under NASA. And there could be the fact that some people may say, or the message, because the Kamba people traditionally have tended to be in government or have voted with the government of the day. There could be, of course, that message that you tried the opposition in 2013 or tried code 2013 and didn't work, and maybe you're also subjecting yourselves to the opposition again by voting with NASA. But I think August 8, 2017, we still expect that majority of the voters in the Kamba region will most likely vote with NASA, but Jubilee will still get quite something out of it. And I think the challenge and the task for Jubilee, and I think what they are focusing on, is to make sure that they could get a respectable percentage of the votes in the lower eastern region.
And still with you, Dr. Kamau, Mandela Chap, and whether it's likely to split votes between Jubilee and Wiper. How does this change the equation?
Definitely nobody can dismiss Dr. Alfred Mutua. He has positioned himself as a governor who has achieved a lot, and I think whether part of it is PR, as people like dismissing it, the fact is that he has gained a recognition, maybe one of the few governors who have found recognition or gained recognition beyond their counties. And I have to say that I still expect that Maendeleo Chap will have a strong showing within that region. And there's a sense, perception, but not just perception. I think even Dr. Alfred Mutua himself, he has openly declared a couple of times that he is associating with Jubilee. And there's a sense in that people could see him, of course, as leaning towards Jubilee. It could be a factor. But like I said, maybe for his case, he may have a strong showing as the governor, running for the governor position, perhaps because of his track record and the fact that he's been able to showcase some of the things that he has been able to do. But I think, like I am saying, we still expect quite a number of maybe MPs or MCAs maybe were elected on a Maendeleo Chap ticket. You cannot dismiss his influence, but I'm still saying that I think Kalonzo is still the political supremo in that particular region.
Jeremiah, do you agree?
Well, partly yes, partly no. For instance, if I was to win, and I believe I will win Machakos governorship seat, that will reduce my good friend Dr. Alfred to a mere party leader. But he's a clever man. He knew where to hang around, so that when there were no fallouts in the major parties, so some candidates ran beyond Machakos and wanted to be part of his party. Well, at least if he loses the seat to me, August this year, he still have work to do to run his party. But what I think is this: in Machakos, partly I agree with Dr. Kamau here that predominantly it's been an NASA zone. In 2013, in particular, we voted in the code to code. But you see now, since then and now, people in Machakos have seen what the current government has done. For instance, in Yatta, there's about billion, upgrading and lining of the 50-kilometer stretch of the Yatta Canal and the proposed Yatta Dam that has been done. People are beginning to see what has been the last mile electricity project here in Matungulu and the whole of Machakos. Pesa was there, welfare. So people are beginning to see, though we didn't vote this government in 2013, they have had no grant with us. They have done A, B, C, D. Then how much more can they do if we voted, them this time round? Again, Machakos will be split. The voters in Machakos, some of them will vote for NASA, others will vote for Jubilee. Our good leader Kalonzo Musyoka is not the flag bearer for NASA. Okay, so and I wonder what will appear in that ballot box, because I don't believe NASA is a registered political party. So in 2013, people realized that when we were voting for Kalonzo, they were voting ODM. So in Machakos, you might be surprised. Out of the 610,000 votes that are registered, perhaps 500,000 will vote, and I believe half of that number is likely to vote for President Uhuru and Ruto. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Ndete, talking about the just concluded party nominations, we've seen a number of people disgruntled on the party nomination results, and now having opted to go it alone as independent candidates. Are we likely to see the same in Ukambani? What are the likely scenarios? We know, for instance, in Kitui, there was the issue of Malombe and Musila, and other areas as well. What are the likely scenarios we're likely to see there as regards independent candidates?
Lillian, in the areas where we have got strongholds for certain political parties, their campaigns are literally over, because there is very little that is going to happen. I would believe, seriously, from my experience, if someone has obviously lost in a nomination process where there is a wave, like where there's a predominant party, then even running on independent candidate, a certain debate normally generates among the voters. And they say, we already rejected you. Why do you have to go through the back door and come back? So, and that debate is normally very predominant in a lot of these elections where people want to go and just say, okay, I'll engage myself again on independent, try my luck, see if I can make it. Normally, they don't make it. It is in very few cases where they actually beat the person who was genuinely nominated by the people. But in Ukambani, now it is when the campaigns are going to start. The elections, we expect elections now in those areas where there wasn't, like what we call the battle states, the battle counties, and Ukambani is one of them. Because there wasn't, other than the wiper, and there wasn't even very serious wiper nominations. In a lot of, like, I remember the MCS, there was only one with the wiper. There wasn't that mass longing for I have to be in the wiper. That wave is gone down. It's not there. I did not see it. And that tells you the way people are thinking now about this, being all lumped up in that one party. People are in many parties. People chose to go with smaller parties, like I'm the only candidate for this party, so on and so forth. Okay, so now we are going to start campaigns.
What are you saying? Are you saying that in Ukambani that a politician or an aspirant must align themselves with one of those three big parties, either Jubilee, Wiper, or Maendeleo Chap Chap?
Not necessarily. In fact, what is picking up in Ukambani, especially in Makueni now, What is picking up now is Jubilee. A lot of candidates are saying we wish we knew we could have come with Jubilee, because now Jubilee is the in thing, it's the party that is picking up.
What are you basing,
what are you
basing those? Are you talking for the whole of Ukambani, or are you talking for Makueni?
No, I'm talking for Makueni, because I haven't gone to the other two. But I'm talking for Makueni. Jubilee is the party to watch. Right. Wiper would have been before, but the Wiper is no longer. That euphoria for Wiper is no longer there. I must say the naming of Kalonzo as number 2 in the flag bearing for NASA has really beat up the canvas. They're saying we sent you to get us number 1, and I know Mheshimiwa Nyenze has been talking about it, and it's like we are shooting Nyenze down. That's not what we sent him to say, but that is the truth on the ground. People are disgruntled, people are dissatisfied, and they are saying, with Uhuru and Ruto, we know where the government is. We are certain this is what it is. With NASA, okay, they want positions. We don't know, we are not even sure what they can deliver when it comes to all this. We have, like, these burning issues of corruption in the country. People have been waiting for Raila and the team to say this is how we are going to tackle corruption. They're not giving us an agenda. So people are saying, for the sake of peace and continuity of the development which is going on now, we'd rather work with Jubilee. So Jubilee is the party to watch in Ukambani right now.
Dr. Kamau, Mheshimiwa there is alluding to the fact that Makueni is indeed pro-Jubilee. And let's talk about the NASA, the big NASA announcement last week, where Kalonzo was unveiled as Raila Odinga's running mate, and whether this could have possibly deflated expectations in parts of Ukambani. We know that there are some NASA icons that were conspicuously missing, such as Charity Ngilu. We also know that Johnston Musama was also conspicuously absent. And then there's also the Francis Nyenze team, who of course have been very vocal about the fact that this was a letdown for them, the fact that he is not flag bearer. Do you think that this has cost parts of Ukambani the NASA vote?
Well, Lillian, there is expectation that was created ahead of the announcement. I think Kalonzo had spoken strongly, indicating that he was going for nothing short of the presidency. And I think he even indicated when he said he's 63 and why would he run for anything else. And also the words of Mheshimiwa Nyenze and a few other political leaders, they may have created that strong expectation in Ukambani, the same thing that we saw happening also in the Western region, creating the expectation that perhaps Mudavadi will be named the candidate. And that is why I'm saying they could be susceptible, of course, to other voices telling them that you are shortchanged within the NASA arrangement, and especially given the fact that this formula had been tried in 2013 and didn't work. We don't know what conspired or what happened in the talks between the NASA principals, but there could be a sense in which, as Mheshimiwa Ndete is implying, there is a sense in which the Ukambani people felt that perhaps this could have been our best opportunity to go for the #1 position. And the fact that we have not been given, there are certain doubts that have been sowed, and I'm sure Jubilee will try and exploit this by saying that you are better represented within Jubilee, at least you are assured. And I think that is what the Deputy President has been telling them, that in 2013, Mlituchenga, but this time you could come with us. And that is what I also think my colleague here is implying. So there could be the fact that Ukambani, or the lower eastern region, could be susceptible to that kind of messaging coming from Jubilee. But like I said, I think Kalonzo is trying hard to marshal his troops and tell people that we are better off in NASA, indicating that in NASA at least we are #2 if we were to look at the arrangement. But in Jubilee, perhaps we do not see our direct representation. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, the lower eastern region has been used to being in government, even from the KANU days, and they were always susceptible to the ruling party going to them with messaging that you are better off in government. And I think that is what the lower eastern voters will have to evaluate. Where do we find the best representation? Where do we stand the best chance? So that could be a factor in terms of determining how the people are likely to vote. And that is why I'm saying, even if majority are likely to lean towards NASA, Jubilee is counting on the fact that they could use this kind of approach to ensure that the turnout favors Jubilee in a sense. But I also have to say that what we're likely to see, the outcome of that big NASA declaration, in Western and Lower Eastern, you're likely to see depressed voter turnout, because people are normally more enthusiastic when they can see their son on the ballot as the presidential candidate. So there's a sense in